extraordinary humans. I hope everyone is having a fantastic start to their week. This is the first WIP N Chat of our collaboration. So Neal is here. Say hi, Neal.
Hi, Neal.
Yes, and I'm here, and so we are going to be working on Diamond Art Club's Wolf Dream Catcher by Sunniva Meister, or Mr. M-Y-S-T-E-R. It's a 42 centimeter by 60 centimeter. And what we've decided to do is start at each end and meet in the middle. So that's the goal. We're just gonna kind of chat along. I did ask you guys if you had questions and did not get much in the way of response. So be thinking about if you have questions for us that you want to leave in the comments of today's WIP N Chat. You're gonna actually get two this week. You'll get one today and you'll get one Friday, since we didn't get to get one together last week. It's been a, kind of a busy week. So, I had my father's memorial service on Saturday, and then my brother and I scattered his ashes on Sunday. So yeah, it's been a lot. They're repaving the road outside of our house. So I'm going to apologize in advance if you hear loud machinery or anything, or if the bark machines go off, you'll know why. So again, if you have questions for either Neal or I, leave them in the comment area, and we will answer them in Friday's WIP N Chat. Okay. So, where to begin? Let's see. I guess we'll just start with some generic kinds of questions, and we'll just work with that and see how that goes. So, let's see. What brought us to diamond painting? Well, we'll start with that. So I was and am a big time rubber stamper. And so I was just looking for something new to try that wasn't going to take a whole lot of different supplies and wasn't going to be, something that was going to require me to buy all kinds of tools. Haha, on that one. I know, you're laughing. I can hear you. I know. And I thought, something that was quiet and something that I could have a conversation as I worked, so that, I wasn't having to stop every 5 seconds to answer questions, answer the phone, go from there. So I happened to see a video. I was looking for a different video, and I happened to see in passing the video. I want to say it was probably Katie with Diamond and Washi's video. She had a beginner's video that happened to be playing in the rotation when I went by looking for something else, and I thought, diamond painting, what the heck is that? So I watched it and I thought, oh no, that looks, I don't know if that's going to be fun or not, but it might be worth a try. So I did. And in fact, we all tried it together. Lisa was here at that time, and so I just bought a bunch of canvases and we all sat down and tried it at the same time together, and some of us really liked it and some of us not as much, but it was fun to try something new. And so and it took me a few tries to really decide, yeah, I do like this, and I do want to keep doing this and see what I can make out of it. And so that is how it got started. Now, when I was normally doing my rubber stamping in our old house, we had our art area. It was actually part of our garage, and so we would go out there and Neal would paint ceramics and I would rubber stamp. And so that was, that was fun, because we could still talk and discuss life and, what happened during our day and, all of those kinds of things. And so that was fine. But this is actually something where we can, we're doing the same thing, so, which is kind of nice. So what do we like about diamond painting? Okay, well, I like I don't know, it's not the orderliness of it. That's not really what it is. There's something about the linear part of diamond painting that just really, it just really works with my mind. I find it very relaxing. I can start diamond painting and, be in a bad mood and start slamming drills down and cussing and by the time I'm finished with, a few rows, I feel much better. I'm, back to being more like myself. There's just, I don't know if you want to call it healing, but there's just something about it that works. I know that a lot of therapists are now recommending it to a lot of their anxiety patients, a lot of their depression patients, and I can totally see why. I just, I wouldn't have thought that it would have the effect on me that it has, but it definitely does. In fact, you guys, I laughed so hard. I saw a t-shirt today, I think it was on Temu, that said, diamond painting is for other people's safety. And I just laughed because I totally got it. That made a lot of sense to me. Because the more time I get to sit and relax and put some drills down, the less stressed I am and the less I'm likely to be irritated with somebody. So those are the kinds of things that I appreciate about it. I appreciate that you can get a canvas in any size, from very, very little to very, very big. If you're leaving and you're going to travel, it's not hard to take with you because, you can pretty much, get one of those cool art dot containers or really any kind of container you want, kit it up before you go and, put it in the car and go, or take it on the plane or whatever it is you're doing. So you got to love a hobby where you can do that. With rubber stamping, it's hard to do that because you have to figure out, well, okay, what kind of cards did I want to make, and what color ink pads do I need, and what do I need to take, markers or alcohol markers or colored pencils, or and if I'm going to want any die cuts, I'm going to have to die cut them ahead of time because you can't really, it's hard to travel with a die cut machine. So there are perks over stamping that I appreciate. I will never give up stamping because it was my first love. So. And I've been doing it now 40 years, so it's not likely to go anyplace. But I absolutely enjoy diamond painting. And I love that, you can diamond paint and have conversations with people. You can diamond paint and be by yourself. You can diamond paint and watch TV. You can diamond paint and listen to a podcast. You can diamond paint and listen to the radio. Whatever you want to do, it's totally doable. So that's what I like about it. Okay, Neal, your turn. What brings you to diamond painting, and what do you like about it?
Well, like you said, you bought some canvases and got us all together to try this out. And I had done, some crafts before. Like she said, I painted ceramics, but after a few years, the craft stores didn't have a selection of ceramics anymore, or if you could find them, they were so far overpriced that it wasn't worth the effort. Except, around the holidays, they bring them out, and, people will paint little holiday scene ceramics or things like that. But during the rest of the year, you just didn't find it. Or if you did, it probably wasn't something you wanted to paint. And so after that, I didn't really craft for some time, though I do have other hobbies that I enjoyed, a couple of which really irritate my wife.
Mm-hmm. That's for sure. And now you have to tell them what they are because, you've
Well, of
mentioned
course.
it. Mm-hmm.
I like target shooting. I hunted in my years past, and I load my own ammunition.
Something else she doesn't like. Anyway, go on.
But you can't do that all the time. And, I've gotten older, and it's more difficult to get out and stomp through some brush somewhere to hunt or to go to a range and set up to target shoot. So I haven't really done a lot of that of late, though I studied firearms a lot. At one point, I wanted to be a gunsmith, and I took courses in the military and out of the military to learn about all kinds of firearms. While we're on that subject, you can go out and you can purchase a pistol, rifle, shotgun, whatever. But if you've not had any training on safety of them or how to properly, line it up to hit a target or whatever, it's more than just, slapping something together and pulling a trigger. Because, that's a good way to kill yourself. Because you don't know what the heck you're doing, and you're dealing with a weapon that is designed for a purpose, for self-defense or for hunting or whatever. But to get back to the diamond painting, so she brought the diamond paintings out, and we sat down around the table and we started to diamond paint. And I found that it was filling a gap for me that painting had left when I could no longer paint.
With a lot less mess, too.
Yeah.
So that's nice.
Yeah. And it was something that we could do together. Now, I don't sit here every night and diamond paint with her, though she's here nearly every night. There are other things that I need to do around the house, or, I sit down and I'll diamond paint for a couple of hours, 3 hours, and my back and hips won't take sitting in the chair anymore. I've got to go find someplace more comfortable to sit, so I have to stop. But she will stay out here and continue to diamond paint way beyond her pain level.
Yeah, I do that until I'm so crippled up I can barely stand up to go, inch my way to the bed before I collapse. But But yeah, I do. I try to make a certain time of the day everything gets put away, whether I'm finished or not, because otherwise I'm a type A, and so I'll just keep working on something till positive infinity, and that's really not a good thing to do for anybody. And so I try to think, okay, what am I doing? If I can arrange it so I have time earlier in the day, that's great. But usually the morning hours and the early afternoon are the only good time of day that I have, because I live with chronic pain. And by 2 or 3 in the afternoon, it has caught up with me, and it's starting to get to the point where it's going to be terrible until I can lay prone and stay that way. So when that gets to that point, I'm like, okay, that's enough of that. And then I put away whatever actual work I'm doing and turn it into diamond painting, and then I can at least not focus so much on the pain. That's another thing I like about diamond painting. It gives my brain something to do besides have to register how bad I hurt, because I hate that. I hate it with a passion. And I mean, I have a pain regimen. It's not that I don't do anything for the pain. I definitely do. But you know, there's only so much you can do. I think I may have mentioned before to you guys that I have an autoimmune disorder, and the real downside of that is that my immune system thinks that my connective tissue and my joints are foreign bodies, and they are trying to kill them all the time. And so it's destroying my cartilage, it's destroying my connective tissue. So a lot of the areas of my body where you're supposed to have some padding are now bone to bone. And unfortunately, there's really not a lot they can do for that. I mean, and I can't take any of the narcotics. So I don't get the benefit of that. And I have an allergy to codeine. I can't take that either. So yeah, I don't get to have any of the good stuff. So I have to live on what I can take, and I'm already on the maximum dose of that. So I look for ways to distract my brain so that I don't have to do just focusing on how bad I hurt, because that would make life really hard to tolerate. So yeah, I try to shut down the things that are aggravating during the day, you know, the stressors, the bill paying, the dealing with stupid people, the creditor, all of that gets a cutoff. And I had to learn to do that. It's a conditioned thing. And when I cut that off and I can get my diamond painting out, it's a better part of the evening for me. So that's where that mostly comes from. So I will usually start diamond painting for the night. Oh, I don't know, around 5 or 6 usually. And then I stop somewhere around 11-ish. Sometimes I go a little later if I'm having a night where I know I'm not going to sleep well anyway. I'll stay a little longer, but that's generally what I do. But yeah, he does, Neal's a type B. So he kind of paces himself, and that includes his diamond painting. You know, he gives himself, you know, a certain amount of time, and then it's like, okay, that was fun. Now I'm going to go do something that needs to be done, and that's that. And because we have 7 animals, there's always something that you can be doing. So anyway, go ahead, honey. Didn't mean to cut you off. I just wanted to clarify some of that.
No, that's fine. I guess there were some people that wanted to know a little bit about my military background. I served in the U.S. Army on active duty for just over 20 years.
Tail end of Vietnam.
Yeah. Went in '69 at the tail end of Vietnam and retired after the completion of Desert Storm. Though I did have a break in service. After my first tour, I got out in 72 and moved down to Huntington Beach.
California.
Yes, in California. I'm California born and bred.
Me too. Although different parts.
And so I struggled for 20 months trying to get employment to support myself and my family. At that point, I had a wife and a daughter, and not too long after that, a son. And getting a job in that period was pretty difficult. I found out real fast that sales is not my forte. I really suck at sales. It's very frustrating for me. I'd rather just, do a job and get it done and not worry about, oh, is somebody going to buy this, or am I going to get a commission? Am I going to get a paycheck? To heck with that stuff. So I worked for several months as what they call an electromechanical assembler, which means that you're doing some basic electrical connections, and you're using other normally power tools to complete an assembly. I was working at a company where we were making electrical signs for Chevron stations, and that lasted, I don't know, 9 or 10 months, something like that, and the contract was getting completed, so they were laying people off. And then I found a job with another company where they were manufacturing uninterruptible power supplies for mainframe computers. And those were not just little boxes that, with some batteries that you could put on the floor and plug in and, charge up and they'd be fine. Oh no, these were big battery systems to be able to power a mainframe for 24, 36 hours, something like that, in case there was a power outage. And I did that for about 3 months, I guess, and then was offered through a friend to go and work in the oil fields in Long Beach Harbor. So I became a roughneck working the oil rigs in Long Beach Harbor, and the pay was good, but boy, was it dangerous and dirty, hard work. You know, they paid us pretty well, but, you know, I was safer in the military. So I worked there like 4 months, and they shut a well down and laid me off because I was one of the new guys.
Always fun being at the bottom of the food chain when you start a new job.
Oh, yeah. And so I was out of work a couple of months, and got another job doing electromechanical assembly for another company down in Orange County. And I worked there, I don't know, maybe 6 weeks on swing shift, and we were getting a shift differential for swing shift. And they decided they were going to eliminate the swing shift, and they would absorb anybody that wanted to stay into the day shift, which was okay, but that eliminated the incentive that they were paying to work swings. And about that time, Edison decided to raise the electrical rates. If I could have stayed working on swing shift, we would have been fine.
Okay, our power company is Southern California Edison, so that's what he's talking about. Go ahead, dear.
Thanks. So, you know, seeing what I'd been through and what we were facing, I said, you know, to heck with this. I am tired of the instability of, you know, not having income that I could count on. So I told my wife at the time, I'm going to go back in the Army. And she wasn't real thrilled about it. By the way, my job in the Army was I was a military policeman and a correction specialist. I was slotted as a correction specialist, unknown to me when I enlisted, by my recruiter. But I found out that, you know, I was working in the jail, okay? I didn't have to go play in the field, play in the mud and the rain and the snow and the blistering heat. Though, you know, I dealt with prisoners 24/7. And these were not prisoners of war. These were our own military service members that were awaiting trial by court-martial or had been to a court-martial and were sentenced to a period of confinement. So I think that's enough military drivel for now.
Yeah, when we met, he had already been retired from the military, so I missed all of that phase of his life, which was probably a good thing because I never wanted to marry anybody in the military. I just, because I knew you have to be able to be second in their lives after the government, and that was not something I wanted to do. I did not want to be married by myself. I did not want to run a household with kids by myself. It was not what I was interested in doing. My friend Lisa, which you guys know I've talked about, her first husband was in the Navy, and was out to sea 6 months at a time, and their marriage did not last. What a surprise. So it was not something I had ever had on my radar. I steered clear of military establishments and activities because I didn't want to meet somebody that I thought was great and then hardly ever see them. That was not my kind of thing. Plus, I have a bit of an issue occasionally with authority, so that's not it. So military base is probably not a great place for me to be. So, yeah. So fortunately, by the time we met, he was already a retiree. So that worked out.
She's trying to say I was old.
I would never. I think he's feeling his age a little bit because as we film this, today happens to be May 7th, and his birthday is tomorrow. So everybody say happy birthday to Neal in the comments. So he'll feel the love. So yeah, so I think it's forefront on his mind. But anyway, but yes, there's a number of years between us. I mean, yeah, I always tell him he's a cradle robber because, yeah, there's 18 years between us. But interestingly enough, the number of years between people starts to be less and less of an issue the older you get. It just doesn't, it just doesn't really enter the equation. So, and we just had, as I told you guys before, when we went to see Christopher Titus, we celebrated our 21st wedding anniversary in March. So, things can work. You just have to be willing to realize that things are going to take effort. And, we've been through the ringer. When we started going together and living together, we started couples therapy immediately because neither one of us wanted to be divorced again. So, and, his kids were already grown and they were gone and doing their own thing. But, I still had my 3 were still at home. And so that, was going to be interesting because, he had not been a stepfather before and didn't understand special needs really at all. So combining the two things was, pretty interesting for a few years there. So it was good because when we started with couples therapy, then a little while later, after we got married and hit the rocky spot, then we could go back and have family therapy. And, there was already an understanding of us. And so that helped. And I think really, I really credit those years with saving our home, our relationship, our psyches, our sanity. And so, we both had to work a lot. We had to learn a lot. And we had to be willing to learn a lot. And we had to be willing to implement suggestions that were made, even if we really didn't want to. So, but we did. Again, for those of you who have been through divorce, the last thing you want to do is go through another one. It's awful. It's a terrible thing to do. The process sucks. It's terrible. My custody battle was 6 years long. I kid you not. My oldest son aged out, turned 18 before we were finished with it. So that tells you, mostly what you need to know about that. But, and I tried to discourage him when we got together. I said, listen, you really don't want any part of this life. It's very complicated. It's, there's a lot that has to be done. My kids have special needs. He had raised his family, so he wasn't obligated to take on another one. So, but he's a Taurus. He's very stubborn, and he decided to stick around. I have no doubt there have been times over the years he has regretted that decision. But, now my kids are out of the house, kids of their own. Neal has, his kids of their own. They're all over the place. I mean, his kids are in Washington. I have one in Texas, one in Florida. So it makes it, very difficult to see our grandkids, which we have several, actually. I think between us, what are we at? 10 or 11, something like that?
At least 9.
No, it was 9 before Layla got here, so it's at least 10. Yeah, might be 11. I'm not sure, and I don't know if my stepkids have had more since the last time we've spoken with them, which has been a long time ago. So yeah, so that's a lot. But yeah, and I think, and what was hard is, I think anytime you marry somebody when you're still raising a family and you have obligations to minors and they're kind of finished with that, I mean, you're in a different phase of your life. So it took a while for our phases of life to sort of catch up with each other and be similar. They're similar now, but they weren't similar for a long time because 18 years is a childhood for a person, right? I mean, you go from birth to adulthood in that length of time. So, yeah, there were a lot of things that we had to do very differently. I mean, I was dealing with IEPs and back to school night, and, he was looking at, well, I should be able to retire pretty soon. And he didn't get to for a while. I mean, he had to work in the private sector after putting in a military career. And that was very difficult because some of the jobs that were available to him were not what he wanted to do. I mean, he did it. He worked security for a long time. And I hated that because I really felt that was so beneath him. I mean, really.
It was.
Yeah, I mean, he really was qualified for so many things. But, there was a recession on the verge at that time. Things were about to tank really bad. Worse than we knew, and what we knew was bad enough because it was the early 2000s, and I was still finishing my divorce, so we couldn't get married for a while, which was probably okay because that gave us time to have couples therapy and figure out what the running of the house was going to look like, and what was going to happen with the kids and how that was going to go, and we had some differing ideas about child rearing. So
boy, did we.
We really, really did. And so
led to big fights.
Yeah, we had some whoppers. I mean, ultimately what ended up happening, because, my expectation was, oh, well, good. He's already raised a family, so, he'll be there to help, right? Well, then I found out that no, that wasn't going to work because the ideals about child rearing that we had were too different, and because my kids had special needs and he was retired military, those two things do not mix well, especially the ADD. Oh my God, that one was really hard. And I spent a lot of time when we were in our therapy sessions going, you can't throw the kids in the brig when they don't turn off the light. I mean, that's the least of their problems. And it drove him crazy for years. I mean, it was just that and a few other things. But so yeah, so I realized fairly quickly that, okay, since these were my kids and I was in a custody arrangement with their father, I was going to have to go ahead and take responsibility for them, and he was not going to be able to help me. And then I had to basically tell him, yeah, you can't be a part of this because our ideals are too different, and ultimately they're my responsibility because you already raised yours. So, and I didn't want to create constant flux in our house by doing, pitting the step parent with the stepchildren. I didn't want to live like that. I had seen that in a lot of other homes and I was not interested. So instead of getting help that I thought I was getting, I said, what I need you to do is I need you to support me so that when I'm at my breaking point And let me tell you what, that happens a lot when you have issues with kids that I had with mine. I said, I need you to be the one there to massage my back, or, rub my feet, or offer me a soda, or what would you like me to do for dinner? I need you to do that for me, and you leave them to me, because they're my problem, not yours. And that's how we had to do it. Now, that didn't mean he didn't have opinions. Oh, he did, 100%. And that's okay, and that was something that we learned, we can talk privately anytime you want to about that. But, my hope was that he would develop sort of a friendship with the boys that would sort of develop organically. I don't know that really happened.
No, not for quite a while. I mean, not till they were in adulthood and out of the house.
Yeah, that's probably true. But, yeah, I mean, he had to give me my space to do what I thought was right with my kids. And, he could have said, I told you so anytime he wanted to if things didn't work out. But I also, because his kids don't speak to him, and that has bothered me for a long time. And so I thought, okay, clearly, this is not Dr. Spock. And, I don't know all the ins and outs. I wasn't there when he was raising his kids with his ex-wife. And then she passed away, I don't know, a few years into our relationship, and that was a whole nother thing. And he had strife with his kids over that. And there was a lot. And so I just went, okay, I'm going to deal with my kids, and you're going to deal with your kids, and, we'll catch up later tonight when it's just us, because, yeah, we can't do that. His family also was not thrilled about me, so that made things a little complicated. But, and after a while, I just stopped going and being a party to it, because this is ridiculous. I'm going to end up inadvertently causing a problem for him that's going to put his relationship with his family in a bad situation. And my mother was very, very direct when I was growing up, and she said, you never, ever make a man choose between you and his family, because you can come and go forever, but his family will always be there. So that's a fool's bargain. Don't ever do that. And so it really hit home. I mean, it resonated, and I always had that in the back of my mind. And I didn't care how horrible they might be. I knew, because when my mother told me that, I took it to heart. I thought, okay, well, and our therapist even told us in a couple of sessions that, you can say anything you want to about your family, but you cannot, under any circumstances, say one word about your significant other's family, period. You don't get to do it. It's not okay. It's a relationship killer. You do not get to do it. It's off limits. So that took some doing, because there were a lot of things that I know we both would like to have said about the other person's family. But, we abided by that, because we found out that we didn't want to argue 100% of the time either. None of us had the energy. We were both working. I was taking the kids every single day to appointments to deal with their special needs. I was dealing with the court and with their dad. And, and my parents were also, starting to get older and starting to have some health concerns. And I just, I didn't have the energy to do it. So we had to, separate some stuff out, which is, it worked. I mean, we got through it. So I guess that was okay. But yeah, there was a lot going on at that time when we were trying to figure out how and if we were going to make this work. And his mother was still around. His sister moved out here not too long after we moved in together. So yeah, that was a whole nother thing. And so, yeah, I just was it was a lot at the time, and you could not pay me enough to go through that again for all the tea in China. No. I'm glad we got through it, and I'm done with that. So, but I will tell you, we both learned a lot about boundaries, about what you can say and what you can't say, what you can do and what you can't do in relationships. So, yeah, I think probably the therapy dollars were some of the best spent dollars we had, because I don't know that we would have continued over some of the issues that we had without that help. I mean, especially for me, I mean, since I had kids that were minors and I had to do what I had to do because I was responsible for them. They were not of age of majority. You know, I was going to have to side with them most of the time, because whether he stayed or whether he went, they were going to be there. And I was still going to have to deal with that one way or another. So, and I personally don't feel that if you bring someone into a child's life that's your choosing, and their life is then miserable, that's on you. You are responsible for making sure that whatever the boundaries are, however the situation's going to work, that everybody has, you know, whatever they need to get through the day. And that includes changing the relationship parameters if need be. I mean, you know, I spent a long time with my kids saying, listen, I know that you're not happy because, you know, your dad's not here. Your dad's across town in a different place. And I know that that wouldn't be your choice. And you don't even have to like Neal, but you are not going to disrespect the head of the household, period. And it was especially bad because their dad went out of his way never to pay a penny of child support. So, you know, I was grateful for any help paying the rent and paying the food and paying the gas, because it was all on me. So, and I wanted them to understand that if we're going to end up somewhere you're really not going to like, if you're going to be a jerk and you're going to drive people away. And I talked to Neal a lot, and I said, you know, remember, you walked into a family that's already here. So you can't just take over, because that's not going to work. So yeah, we had a lot we had to figure out, and I felt like I was in the middle a lot, and it pissed me off because I didn't want to be referee. So yeah, I mean, it was not a situation that was without difficulty. We had to really work hard, both of us, for a long time, and, you know, not give up, because giving up sometimes would have been the easier way to go. But we both kind of have stick-to-itiveness. We don't, and again, didn't want to have to be going into divorce court a second time and just going, wow, really? I'm 0 for 2? Yeah, we didn't really want to do that. So, you know, we were just stubborn enough to stick it out. And so we did. And here we are, 21 years later. Now my kids are also growing and out of the house. And we have grandkids we don't really see, but, you know, and we got to look around and went, okay, what do we want to do with this next phase of our life? Because we're headed into the, you know, the twilight years now together, which is interesting too, because had we been a little closer in age, I don't even think that would have helped in our situation. I really don't. I think we still would have been the same people, whether we were at different phases or the same phase in our life. So, you know, now what was funny is we had a lot of people think that I was his daughter, so that was sort of funny. That happened a lot. But what they didn't realize is, you know, because I have, you know, Miss Clairol and I deal with my hair, and, you know, Neal was gray early. When did you start going gray?
22.
See? So, I mean, you know, we were always going to, you know, look like we were in different phases, and that was okay. But we had a meeting of the minds, I think, and a meeting of mutual values, and the same things that were important to one were important to the other. Those are the foundational pieces that are so important. And I think if you have those, you can get through most anything if you're willing. But if you get tired, or you decide the fight's not worth it, or you're fighting more than you're having peace of mind, then yeah, you're fairly well doomed. But we didn't quite get to that point. Not that the kids didn't try. They tried real hard for a while there.
Did they?
But yeah, and then when his kids stopped talking to him, and that was a whole thing, and then his mother passed away, and then his sister did some really devious things that we're still paying the price for now. Yeah, all of those things were very difficult for us to overcome, but you know, here we are. So you can do it if you really want to. And now that we're both in our twilight years, yeah, you know, it's a little different, because now what we're looking for in our relationship has changed. And so, you know, we're looking more for, you know, the companionship. Now that we've had some history together, we have, you know, memories that we can talk about and laugh at and all of that kind of stuff. You know, it all comes full circle. And so it's actually a little easier now that it's just us that has to be involved in the relationship, and not us and this person, that person. You know, we don't need that requirement, those requirements. It's a different thing. So I guess what I'm saying is, consider sticking it out if you're hitting rocky spots, because, you know, you can come out of it better than before if you're willing to do that. But, you know, that's an individual thing. Now, understand that we did not have substance abuse. Neither one of us were using anything that was illicit. Neither of us were blowing our paychecks on something and then expecting somebody else to make up the difference for the household. I mean, there was none of that kind of a thing. Nobody was beating up anybody. So, I mean, we had a basis that was, in our view, worth saving. Now, that might not be true for everyone. And for God's sake, if you have abuse, get the hell out. And, you know, or if there's substance abuse and it's causing bankruptcy, I mean, come on. I know a lot of this is just common sense, but what I'm saying is, yes, we could have cut our losses and went, okay, well, that was fun, bye. And, you know, at any time we could have done that. But we stuck it out, so. And now here we are, trying to figure out how to keep our doctor's appointments going, because there seem to be more doctor's appointments than days some weeks. So, anyway, feel free, dear, to add any insight you have.
Well, you talked about the therapy. When we got together, my thoughts on therapy were, who needs it? You know, I've gone this far, and, you know, I talked to a psychologist once when I was in the Army, when I was having some personal problems. That lasted, I don't know, a couple of weeks. Now, other than that, I didn't have any use for it. And Wendy believed wholeheartedly in therapy. Still does.
I don't know if I believe wholeheartedly in it, but I figured we didn't have a lot of options. And I mean, there's just not, and maybe that's a flaw in our society. There's just not much available for interpersonal problems except therapy.
But anyway, I found that in my issues that I was having with the kids, especially the oldest one, talking to our therapist to get her perspective and give some advice on how to handle some things helped me enormously, because I was ready to kill this little sucker.
Yeah, and he could push the envelope like none other. Let me just say, he has moments. So yeah, and it helped too, just kind of for some background, that our therapist happened to be a step parent as well. So, and had been one for quite some time by the time we started seeing her. So she had what we considered trustworthy insight because she had already been through a lot of it. And so she helped us understand a little bit more about where each other was coming from, which we were struggling to do because, you know, he felt like how he felt and his opinions weren't being considered. And I felt like he was trying to attack my kids. And so that way we got exactly nowhere. So we needed a third party, an impartial third party, to help us mediate and facilitate some of that. So, and that worked out. And there were times that one or the other or both of us left there really irritated. You know, because nobody likes to hear, hey, guess what? This week it's your fault. But, you know, sometimes it is. And you have to realize, oh, is that how that came off? Okay. And you have to learn sometimes that saying I'm sorry is a strength, not a weakness. So that was something that, you know, we had to learn. But we also didn't want to have tension in a house in front of the kids all the time either. Both of us knew that that was a bad idea. But it seemed like buttons were constantly being pressed, either by the kids, because of the kids, around the kids. I mean, it just was, it was rough. And I felt really bad because I felt like everybody was miserable and I had created the situation. This was my decision, who was in the house and who wasn't. In fact, with the first time that we went in to see the therapist as a family, I said to her, because she did the therapist thing that they all do. Why are you here? How can I help? La-di-da-di-da-di. And I flat out said, well, here's the thing. I'm tired of being in a house of chaos all the time. And so I'm going to start throwing people out. I'm going to start with this one and then I'm going to throw that one. And then the rest of us will see what happens. Because I was really that frustrated. And so fortunately, she didn't say, yeah, you know what, I'm not going to take on this family, and threw us out, which she could have done anytime she wanted to. Or let me refer you somewhere else. Yeah, but she didn't. So we did what, you know, we needed to do. And as the kids got older and other things happened, and then we had, you know, other types of issues. I mean, it helps, if nothing else, to have a sounding board every week that is going to listen to you. So that was an important factor, because there were a couple of times when we realized, as we were learning better skills, we realized that, wow, this subject goes badly every time we try to talk about it. We need to bring this up in her office. And so we did that a couple of times, and it was better. It really was. And she was not a take side person. She did not do that. she used her training and her clinical opinion to provide the therapy to us during the times that we were at an impasse and what that looked like. And, you know, and gave us perspective in ways that we hadn't had. So yeah, I mean, I don't know that it's for everybody, but we were at wit's end. There was nothing else to try. We had tried it. I mean, we were just constantly, you know, bickering. If, you know, I had to discipline the kids, Neal felt I was being too soft on them. If I asked him to say something nice, he came off sounding like it was, you know, a command instead of actually, you know, providing them a nice thing to say. So, I mean, there was just little and big stuff both. So, I think that's a long way of saying that, you know, our relationship in our family went through changes. Okay, it was not an ideal situation all the time. But here we are 21 years later, talking to you. So something worked. I don't know what, but something. But again, if you're not both equally willing to try, then you're kind of doomed. I mean, there's not much you can do without the other person being on board. So looks like we are about an hour in. We've talked your ear off. So again, I'm going to ask you guys, now you've gotten a little bit of a breakdown from both Neal and I. So anyway, if you have questions or something you wanted to know or something you'd like us to talk about, you can leave it in the comment section and we will certainly take it up. Also, coming videos. I do have a completion video for you from, oh gosh, you guys, I want to say One Day Saving. I also have an unboxing from Dreamer Designs, a small one from Amazon and one from Temu. So you're going to get tired of seeing me. I'm going to be around. And again, we will try to get another video up and moving around Friday when we normally do our WIP N Chats. I hope everyone is having a fantastic, fantastic day. And remember, always be a dragon. Spread your wings. Protect those you love. Have fiery passion. Stay strong, slay your fears. And always, always, always fly high, rise up, and soar. Okay, everybody. Have a great day and a great rest of your week, and we will see you in the next one. Say bye, dear.
We'll see you guys. Have a good evening.
Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.